As well as encouraging collaboration between arts organisations, technology providers and researchers, the Digital R&D Fund for the Arts is supporting experiments from which the wider arts sector can learn. Projects that have already received funding include DanceTag, a location-based dance video app, and Qualia, a cultural evaluation app being used by Cheltenham Festivals, and both have involved researchers from the University of the West of England and Plymouth University. DanceTag encourages users to upload their dance films to the web, allowing others to view, share and rate each contribution. The app was commissioned by the regional dance agency Pavilion Dance South West. Dr. Seth Giddings, Programme Leader for Media and Cultural Studies at the University of the West of England, has been working alongside Richard Wilson from Mobile Pi, the Bristol-based games development studio that created the app. Dr. Giddings explains how his research set about understanding the overall design process, including user involvement and collaboration.
I guess my research questions, if you like, from the academic side, were to see how the collaboration between cultural partners and technological partners generated not just the app itself, but kind of moments of play and dance, and how technical considerations, cultural considerations all shaped the future. My wider research looks at the relationship between technologies and people and their environments in playful circumstances. So on that level it's very, very similar. What's different about this one is being involved in the design and production process, as an observer, as a contributor to a small extent. So that's absolutely fascinating. It's having that access to the design and production of the project, understanding how that workflow works, how the discussions, the software that's used, the kind of decisions that have to be made. So a deeper understanding of the factors behind any particular moment at which people are playing the technology.
As Richard Wilson explains, for Mobile Pi, the company was keen to include ideas and collaborations from everybody involved.
We've always, from day one, been very open. We wanted everyone to feel involved and be involved in the sort of design process. Obviously, the technical side is our sort of our domain, but we try to explain where those decisions affect the design. That's part of the reason why we're so keen on getting it in front of users from an early stage, is to get that feedback.
Personally, as a researcher, I sort of felt a little sort of parasitical on the real work of making the app, and for the cultural partner for Pavilion Southwest to increasing their audience. Now the user testing started, that's been great fun. So our trip to Brighton last week, where all the kind of roles got mixed up really, because we were going out trying to encourage people to test out the app and to get them involved. So, but all the way through, Mobile Pi have been very accepting and open, and felt very much part of it. I think we've had regular and frequent meetings with kind of open agenda, so we get a sense of where everyone's coming from. And I'd certainly recommend setting up some kind of online space just to keep in touch, store files, so things don't just get lost in email inboxes.
But we feel that such knowledge helps us validate the sort of the feedback we're getting, helps provide a framework in which we can evaluate sort of the information we're getting in, and sort of the raw data from users that we're. So it helps us put it in context really.
And what would their advice be to anyone pursuing this kind of working relationship?
I think it would be getting the collaboration, the communication sorted, so you understand what the different partners involved want out of it, and so you can see where the overlaps are. I think make that clear in the application, and then and that will be the kind of foundation for a successful working relationship.
I'd say fail fast, which is always a good thing to do, especially these sort of projects give you the opportunity to do that.
Helping the development of the Qualia app is Cheltenham Festivals, which has teamed up with leading researchers to find more effective ways of tapping into the audience experience. Professor Mike Phillips is Professor of Interdisciplinary Arts at Plymouth University's School of Arts and Media. He's also Director of Research at IDAT, a laboratory based around creative research. Together with Kate Danielson from Cheltenham Festivals, they've been discussing how methodologies introduced by Dr. Eric Jensen from the University of Warwick has helped challenge traditional evaluation thinking. As Kate Danielson recalls, working with such academics has also allowed them to test the effectiveness of using new digital methods.
I haven't got that research academic knowledge that Eric has, and so I said, well, can't you compare that and that? And he said, No, they're not comparative data. So it's about challenging the new technology that's being developed to see whether it can...
Validate it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it's to challenge his traditional ways that I use traditional because they're the ways things are done, the norm. And I'm an academic as well, I'm a researcher and all that kind of stuff. So, but in digital arts, we work in a very kind of cross-disciplinary way with psychologists and not so much sociologists. So the methodology that Eric is using is ethnographic, anthropological, overlaps with psychological methodologies as well, which have traditionally not been technologically based. So this testing of the methods that he uses has been an eye-opener for us as well, just because of assumptions that we've made from our practice. I know it has for him too, because this idea of comparison has been problematic, I think, within the project, because comparing the data that we're getting from the sliders in the app from his half-hour questionnaires, they're just two different things. So it's how they extend or complement each other, and how this different set of values can be validated then using a methodology which has validated the traditional methods. How those things actually become comparable in that way, comparable in the fact that they're useful or not. We're talking about using these techniques in further projects as well. So it's been really productive for us to work with Eric on that. So in terms of writing this grant, it had come out of a dialogue about participating with the audience, about collecting real-time data, and then extending that into what we've got now.
And I suppose that's also then from a festival's point of view is that as you've been having other discussions with them, is that they're very keen to do a bit more. I mean, I used to run the jazz festival. I've been involved with their festivals for a long time, and there's been this sort of growing need to be more sophisticated about how they evaluate, and for it to have more of an impact on next year's programming, so it isn't just a commission piece of work. And so I think for the festival's point of view, it was an opportunity not only to work with IDAT and continue that relationship, but also to add in this really robust evaluation research.
One of the significant aspects of the Qualia project is its ability to reveal real-time subjective responses to live cultural and arts events as they occur, which, as Professor Phillips points out, may prove to be extremely useful for organisations, even if the responses are negative.
In the case of measuring audience impact, if this is really successful and it gives us really detailed data, and that data is somehow what implies more negative results than what we were getting through these traditional methods, how does that work? What do you do with that? In future, these kind of technologies will definitely be in play across the sector, and Cheltenham has an advance warning of how you deal with that as an organisation.
The potential of Qualia is clear, but as Professor Phillips emphasises, the real value of such a system lies in the way the information that's gathered is interpreted.
It's born out of revealing things, maybe sensitive, maybe commercially sensitive, who knows what. The trouble is that we haven't yet compared it with other organisations, so until we do that, there's a whole other set of research to be done there. So the model we've got is we're releasing this stuff as open source software, but somebody has to install it. As with most open source stuff, it'll be there, you can download it, but it requires a bit of tinkering to get it to function properly. But the missing ingredient is actually the knowledge of interpretation that Eric's research brings. So there's a lot of collaboration that can come out of this.
The Qualia project has already proved to be a rewarding collaboration between academia and the arts and cultural sector, in this case with both researchers and Cheltenham Festivals benefiting from the experience.
I suppose the message to researchers of these potential, yes, they might be a bit sort of thorny, some of the issues they're dealing with, but new partnerships, working with an organisation like Cheltenham where you've got real problems, real deadlines, real people.
It's been a very real kind of experience for all of us, having the lab, these events are scary. And I don't think that any of the technologies we've been working with would have been as critically as reflected on as they have been without that kind of input. So that's as a research process, that's really positive.
The Digital R&D Fund for the Arts is a collaboration between the innovation charity Nesta, Arts Council England and the AHRC. For more information about how your research ideas could benefit from the fund, visit the AHRC website or see www.artsdigitalrnd.org.uk. And the deadline for submissions is January the 7th, 2014.